What's happening, everybody? How y'all doing? As you know, my name is my name is Slick P. You know what I'm saying? I'm here today to talk about, you know, just a couple things that I was thinking about. Uh, More recently, the Travon Martin case. I think this has been one of the most interesting cases that I think I've ever seen put up on public trial. Um, all the evidence seems that has been put out seems to point the um, to the accused George Zimmerman of murder. Uh, Everything points to just convicting him, sending him away to jail at least for life. Maybe not death row, but definitely life. Uh, right now he's facing 25 years for uh, for murder for Travon Martin. Just a little background information. A couple of years ago, Travon Martin was coming back home late at night from a basketball game at a high school. He was on the phone with a friend of his, walking back to the neighborhood to go to his father's apartment complex, go back to his father's house in a gated community, mind you, in Sanford, Florida. George Zimmerman, I guess, was a part of the neighborhood watch, and he was in his car, had a firearm with him, and called the police, saying that he was very suspicious of what was going on with when he saw Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin had a hoodie on. It was pulled all the way over. Uh, and he had a bag of Skittles and iced tea. He had just stopped by the 7-Eleven on his way to his father's house as well. So Mr. Zimmerman was on the phone with the police, giving him a full report of what he was seeing from Mr. Martin. Um, and as Mr. Martin was walking down the street, the police did tell Mr. Zimmerman, you know, don't go there, don't do what you were doing. But he didn't listen. Uh, he went ahead and pursued Travon Martin, ran after him while Mr. Martin was on the phone. Uh, Mind you, Mr. Martin didn't have any firearm on him. George Zimmerman came, attacked him, they got into a scuffle, and George Zimmerman shot him. George Zimmerman is a Caucasian. Travon Martin is African American. I don't like throwing race all up into the mix, but you know, it is what it is. People gonna make it what it is. Uh, Seemed to me that George Zimmerman, uh, as far as after the events were over, um, the police did not apprehend George Zimmerman for a week and a half. The Martin family didn't find out their son was dead for 3 days. The police did not apprehend the only witness to the case, who was the person who shot Mr. Martin. So right off the bat, it looks like conspiracy because nobody got arrested and the family wasn't even informed. Come to find out, Travon didn't even have any items on him, and also the fact that he also was he was also it was raining outside, and a lot of witnesses maybe saw a few things, but their vision was obscured. But also the simple fact that also this that a lot of people just heard gunshots and they scattered and they fled, just like I would. If I heard a gunshot, I would flee too. The thing is, if the police tell you don't do anything and you're on the phone with them, then you don't do it. Plain and simple. You don't move a muscle. Now, obviously, George Zimmerman, following him, went against what the police's orders were. He had a firearm on him, which he should not have had, whether it be concealed or not. He shouldn't have had and shouldn't have had to use. Florida has what we call a stand your ground law, where you can go ahead and use your firearm if someone is attacking you or you're in a debacle with somebody, physical altercation with somebody. You can go ahead and use your firearm and you can put a bullet to them. I don't see why that would work, because now the stand your ground law seems to not work in George Zimmerman's favor, simply because Mr. Martin didn't attack him first. He was not the one who was being pursued. Mr. Martin was the one being provoked and pursued. Stand your ground law should not even be in effect. Also, the sheriff's department of Sanford, Florida, needs to also be indicted, because there should have been an apprehension within the past 24 hours of Mr. Martin being killed, simply because you are, by law, you are to apprehend someone within 24 hours, for at least 24 hours. You are allowed by law to hold someone for 24 hours if there is some type of suspicion, but there seemed to be absolutely no suspicion as to what happened. The only words that could only be accounted for were Mr. Zimmerman's and not Mr. Martin's. Mr. Zimmerman has a past history also of calling the police. They said he's called at least 50 times before within the year, within the allotted year, calling of suspicious activity around his neighborhood. Whether those were followed up upon, or whether those were followed through, whether those statements were true or not, it didn't matter. He shouldn't have pursued. They told him not to pursue. He pursued. Mr. Martin was found to not have anything on him and not be suspicious, and it was found that he was just going to his father's house. He was on the phone with someone in a faraway place, and they heard things, and other witnesses within the neighborhood heard things. They heard cries for help and things of that nature, but all that's irrelevant. The fact of the matter is, Mr. Zimmerman made a phone call because of his suspicions. He was ordered to do something, and he didn't listen. And the fact that he got in a physical altercation with somebody that he pursued is his own fault, because that's self-defense on the person who's being pursued, because they didn't want to be pursued. There was no reason for them to be pursued, especially by somebody who was not an officer of the law and who had a past history with run-ins with the law. Fact of the matter is, George Zimmerman is guilty. George Zimmerman asked for himself, and I think George Zimmerman, he asked for that type of altercation, and I think the only reason George Zimmerman used his firearm is because he was losing the fight to a 17-year-old, and he wasn't going to be shown up, so he used a gun. And maybe his intent wasn't to kill him, maybe his intent was to just injure him, but he killed him. And now a young man is dead because of his own stupidity, because of his lack of judgment and his lack of listening skills, which seem to be very, very apparent, and his own personal paranoia. We'll never know the sign of Travon Martin, and now we have a case where things could get really, really ugly, and things have probably already gotten ugly. The fact of the matter is, when this case is over, Mr. Martin, rest in peace. Mr. Zimmerman, if you go to jail, work on your listening skills. And if you're free, watch your back. There are people who might be out to get you.